Welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Welcome back, everyone. Glad to be here with you. Love being able to share with you on these Wellness and Weight Loss Wednesdays. Hopefully some real practical takes that you can use in your own life in order to improve, whether it be your overall health, wellness, yes, weight loss or weight gain, and anti-aging. One of the reasons why, though, I focus on body transformation, and I wouldn't say it's so much, but once a week, is that this, I always call it a vessel, but it's like this machine, this vessel that carries you through life is what you have. It allows you to either have endless energy or feel like you have brain fog, you're run down, and you're just worn out all the time, or especially as you age. So my goal is just to always make sure that you are optimizing this house that houses you, that allows you to move through life. And again, every single year, what I try to do is I try to bring you the things that are continually reinforced, but sometimes they're updated. And that's what I want to share with you here today is that, no one can really predict how long they have on this earth. They really can't. I can't predict how long I have. I can't predict how long anybody has. A lot of people like to try to make those predictions. And I think that you can give it your best educated guess. And a lot of the statistical analysis for how long someone is going to live is, yes, there's some genetic basis to it. There's no doubt about it. But they actually look at about 8 different lifestyle factors, not biomarkers. I gave you the biomarkers before, and so this is really important. And I will be coming out. I was going to come out with it this fall, but I'm actually going to give myself a little bit more time to make it more concise. So the thing that I'm finding is that people really want a more concise, tell me what to do plan, and have it be worth my while. Let me actually see those results. So I don't think I was going to come out with it this September. I think it's going to be January. It's going to actually include a lab that shows you your real age, your biological age, which I think will be really great for people to see, but then also how much you can improve it. So on episode 2349, which we'll link up today, so don't worry about that, it's on the Dunedin study, and I'm going to link that up here today. Today's show is episode 2392. So if you head on over to stephencabral.com/2392, you'll see all of today's takeaways for the show, and then some previous podcasts that I want to link up. Because again, I have a 4-part series on Alzheimer's. I've got the 18 biomarkers that we absolutely know leads to earlier mortality. I have a show on there's basically 4 things in life that you need to stay away from that will prevent 75% of all of the reasons for early mortality. So I'm going to create a course making all this a whole lot easier and just teach it to you every week to 2 weeks. But it's all in the podcast. It really is. And so I just want to let you know that I'm never holding anything back. Everything that I have to teach is always on the show. And today what I'm going to share with you is the science on literally how not to die. And there's 8 lifestyle factors that are going to keep you alive longer than if you were not to follow them. And I'm not talking about by a couple years, more than likely by about a decade, right? Like without a doubt. It's probably like from 75 to 85 or late 70s, right? Average age is 74 for men to 77 for women, or 75 to 78. And this is most likely, again, going to allow you to bypass those 4 main causes of mortality, plus hopefully Alzheimer's and dementia, and let you live at least 10 years longer, at least. And the course that I'll be coming out with, most likely, like I said, it'll be January. That is to get you to 100 and beyond, but not 100 in terms of, not being able to live your life. Like that's the thing is, like, I know people that are 100. And, Some, yeah, that's all right. Like I'm good with that. I mean, I know a lot of people in their early 90s right now, and they're active, they're gardening, they're going about, they're attending like dinners, like functions, they're living life. And some people not so much. So I just want to make sure that we get you to 100, right? But also we do it in a healthy way where your quality of life is very high. Excuse me. All right, well, let's get into now those 8 lifestyle-based factors. Again, this is really good science too. So why do I want to share this with you? Well, again, a lot of people have a dogma or like zealous-based outlook on health and nutrition and fitness, and it shouldn't be that way. It should be predicated on what actually works. What does the science say? What has Ayurvedic medicine said for 6,000 years? Like, how can we look at it in a greater picture? And so what I share with you today might seem controversial, but it's really not. Like anybody, if you were a PhD and you were looking at the research, you would say, yeah, this is all validated, not in a couple studies, but over and over and over. And the people that get away from it, yeah, there can be a marginalized group of people or a small group of people that actually can live a long life not following these things, but they're more the outliers than the vast majority. All right, so let's dive right into it. The first one is this. It's going to start with nutrition. We're going to take you through some exercise. We're going to take you through some biomarkers, all sorts of good things. So quick, straight to the point. You'll let me know if you have questions. I'll do follow-up shows on it, okay? So updated diet to this essential 8, it's called, all right? So this was, why don't I just read it for you verbatim? A new guide to assess diet quality for adults and children at the individual level and at the populational level. All right, here's what they found. At the population level, dietary assessment is based on the daily intake of elements in the dietary approaches to stop hypertension eating pattern. That's called the DASH diet. I've done a whole podcast on the DASH diet. I'm going to link it up for you. I think it's worth a listen. That's at 2392. That's today's show. I give you what I think of the DASH diet. I think like 80% of it is pretty solid. 20% could be made even better, and I'm guaranteeing the results would be even better for the people going through all of those different programs. But of course, it works, and that's why it's out there. All right, so the DASH style diet actually has 8 components, and this is what it is, all right? So this works for hypertension. It's been proven. High intake of fruit, vegetables, nuts, legumes, whole grains, low-fat dairy, and it does a low intake of these foods: sodium, red meat, processed meat, and sweetened drinks. Okay, so again, I know there'll be all of the outcry now. Well, what about grass-fed meat? What about pastured chicken? What about pastured eggs? What about wild, fish? Well, fish is actually on the menu. And here's the thing. It's not that you can't consume those things. It's just you don't want to over-consume them and to the detriment of pushing out the fruits, vegetables, nuts, legumes, these types of things. And again, I'll go check out my show on the DASH diet. I'm not going to get too deep into it, but I'm certainly not promoting a lot of grains. Some, yeah, like oatmeal has been proven. Again, like you can't say that oatmeal isn't a health food for people with cardiovascular and blood pressure and diabetes. Believe it or not, it is. I know you're like, well, it's a carbohydrate. It spikes blood sugar. You have to go beyond that outside of the onion. All right. So check that out. And then also it talks about the Mediterranean diet. So I've got a show on Mediterranean diet. I've got a show on my Mediterranean diet, and I'm going to do follow-ups on that as well. So it's really focused on hypertension with, using the DASH diet, for cardiovascular issues using the Mediterranean diet. All right, but I'll be doing, again, more follow-up shows on that as well. Mediterranean diet is almost just like the DASH diet. Like that's where the DASH diet came from. Fruits, vegetables, nuts, not as many legumes. There is some whole grains for sure in that. And then there's fish and omega-3s, olive oil, more berries than just regular fruit. So I think it's a great one to follow. So again, if your diet is radically different than the foods that I just named, you don't have to change it overnight, but you may want to think about it, because these things are absolutely proven for a longer life. They just are. I mean, like the antioxidants, I can't go through 7 years or 6 years of podcasts in one, but just take that into account, and I'll link up some of previous shows as well. So just think about it as I'm going through this. Are you getting fruits and veggies every single day, and you can add in more of those vegetables if you want to go a little lower on fruit. All right. Physical activity. No changes from previous years, but just make sure you're getting the amount that you should. So activity is measured by total number of minutes of moderate or vigorous physical activity per week, as defined by the U.S. Physical Activity Guidelines for Americans in the second edition. The optimal level is 150 minutes of moderate physical activity or more per week, or 75 minutes per week of vigorous intensity physical exercise for adults, 420 minutes or more for children, ages 6 and older. So this is really important to look at. Why? Again, I've talked about the 150 minutes over and over and over. It's actually not that hard, but it's not just walking. Okay, so it's moderate. So it has to be a little bit more than that. So it's 30 minutes, 5 days a week. All right, that's what it is. Or 40 minutes, 4 days a week. That's what it is. So again, you might be a Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday workout person. All right, it's 40 minutes. 20 minutes, maybe you're doing resistance training, weights. 20 minutes, maybe you're doing cardio. Like however you want to do it, but that's what it is. Are you measuring up? All right, again, like no judgment, just yes or no. Keep this relaxed, right? We don't have to be hard on ourselves. We just want to ask, are we doing that? And then for kids, I don't know. I don't think most kids are getting 420 minutes a week. That's an hour a day. Are they getting an hour a day? I hope so. I really hope so, but I'm not sure, right? All right. So number 3 on the list is nicotine exposure, and it's been updated. The use of inhaled nicotine systems, which include e-cigarettes or vaping devices, is added to this since, again, this has been updated and did not previously reflect some of these e-cigarettes and vaping. But it goes to show you that these are just as dangerous, and also watching out for secondhand smoke. Okay, so I talked about that. One of the number one things you can do for a long life, not to get cancer, cardiovascular issues, diabetes, type 2 diabetes, and high blood pressure is not to smoke. Really, really important. All right, inhaling smoke in any way is bad, secondhand or yourself. Sleep. All right, this has been updated. It's new, actually, added to the list. Sleep duration is associated with cardiovascular health. It's also associated with healthy blood sugar and blood pressure as well. And it's measured by the hours of sleep per night. The ideal level is 7 to 9 hours daily for adults. The ideal daily sleep ranges for children is 10 to 16 hours per 24 hours for ages 5 and younger, 9 to 12 hours for 6 to 12 years old, and 8 to 10 hours for 13 to 18-year-olds. And I would say that's even more, like 9 to 10 for teenagers, since their brain and their bodies are growing tremendously. So again, I've done an individual show on how many hours of sleep you need per night. We'll try to link that up. We'll try to do a lot of links today for previous shows because the 7 to 9 hours, extremely, extremely important for balanced blood sugar, cardiovascular, and just much, much more. All right. Number 5 is body mass index. No change has been made to this. So basically, the study is acknowledging that body mass index is an imperfect metric. However, it's easily calculated and widely available. Therefore, BMI continues as a reasonable gauge to assess weight categories that may lead to health problems. What are some of those health problems? Cancer, gallbladder disease, type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular risk, blood pressure risk, metabolic syndrome. All right, so it's really important. The BMI is typically 19 to 25 or 18.5 to 24.9 is the exact range. If you want to find out your BMI for free, you can just go to stephencabral.com/assessments, and you can take your own BMI. Really, really important. I mean, it's honestly, I know that, and again, this isn't about any particular one body that we're trying to strive for. We're just trying to strive for the best body for you. And I have a show that actually details how, like at 5'8", you can have a swing of about 40 pounds for an individual and still be within the healthy ranges of BMI. So again, it doesn't have to mean you have one body type. No, you can have, right, in Ayurveda, we have the Vata, the Pitta, and the Kapha, or the ectomorph, the mesomorph, and the endomorph. And there's that 40-pound swing between a Vata and a Kapha. And that's okay. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. But you still want to stay within that guideline. And again, the 1% of the population that has low body fat, and they might be out of that range. Again, I'm speaking of the 99% of people, okay? All right, blood lipids. Basically, when we look at lipids, we're looking at cholesterol, and that's made up of your total cholesterol, your HDL, and your LDL, and that can be broken down even further. Well, this has been updated because what they want to look at is blood lipids, cholesterol, and triglycerides is updated to use non-HDL cholesterol as the preferred number to monitor rather than total cholesterol. HDL is the good cholesterol, in quotes. Other forms of cholesterol, when high, are linked to cardiovascular risk. The shift is made because non-HDL cholesterol can be measured without fasting before, making it easier to track. I don't agree with this, so I just want to share this with you. You should always have your cholesterol taken between 8 and 10 in the morning, basically the morning hours, while fasted. Because although HDL is a great marker to look at, it's more like an antioxidant-based cholesterol. So it's very important to look at your total cholesterol, the HDL number. Ideally, you want that at a 3 to 1 or less. So if you have total cholesterol of I'll make it easy math for myself, of 180 and you have HDL of 60, okay, you're at a 3 to 1, right? If you're at 240 and you have HDL of 60, well, you're now at a 4 to 1. So ideally, that's not ideal because your HDL then isn't high enough to help balance the oxidated cholesterol in your body, the oxidated LDL or oxidized. So while I think it's a good number, I think it's important to look at all of cholesterol and triglycerides. Triglycerides you really want between like a 50 and 100, ideally right around maybe 60, 75 is a better number to shoot for. All right. Number 7 is updated on blood sugar levels. All right. This metric is include the option of hemoglobin A1C readings or blood glucose levels for people with or without type 1 or type 2 diabetes or prediabetes. Hemoglobin A1C can better reflect long-term glycemic control. Totally agree with this one. You should be looking at your hemoglobin A1C. I talked about that on the 18 Biomarkers podcast. You want your level at a 5.6 or less. All right. So when you run your annual blood work with your doctor, your PCP, you want to get a reading of that hemoglobin A1C. HbA1c is typically called. Hg just for hemoglobin. And you want it at 5.6 or less. All right. Blood pressure. All right. What about blood pressure? Well, no change on this, but if you weren't aware before, the 2017 guidelines were 120 over 80, right? So when you use your blood pressure monitor, if you don't have one, go to stevencabral.com/resources. You can see the one that I use in my practice and at home. And that's optimal, okay? So the hypertension is defined as between 130 to 139, okay? So that's the systolic, that's the top number. And above 80, so like let's say 80, 81 to 89 for the diastolic, which is the bottom number. So we really want to keep it below 130 on the top and 80 or below on the bottom, right? So that's the diastolic. So all of those markers, I want you to kind of test yourself on. That's all. Do you have balanced hemoglobin A1C and blood sugar? When you wake up in the morning, is it below ideally a 90 or a 95? And you can just use a little glucometer. Again, you can find that at stevencabral.com/resources. Blood pressure, is it 180? Is it 120 over 80 or less? And again, it can be too low, but I'm not going to go over that on today's show. Your BMI, is it between an 18.5 and 24.9? Do you sleep on average between 7 and 9 hours per night? Do you smoke? That's just yes or no. Physical activity. Are you getting 30 minutes, 5 days a week of moderate to vigorous activity? If it's vigorous, well, then it's only about, believe it or not, 15 minutes 5 times per week. And then your nutrition. Is it more of a Mediterranean style diet? I'm telling you right now, these things may seem simple, but it is always the simple things that get you the results. These are called, I always talk about foundational principles. These are foundational principles. You can't get away from them. Now, you can tweak your diet based on these. Oh, you don't want to do a lot of fruit? Okay, you're doing more vegetables. Still Mediterranean diet, right? You want to add some animal type protein? Okay, you're doing more fish like salmon, mackerel, sardines, anchovies, wild trout, those types of things, rather than maybe some of the higher mercury-based fish, or maybe more of the red meat. And I'm not even saying that you can't eat red meat. Like, that's not what this is saying. It's like you're doing less of those and more of the high antioxidants, fiber-based foods. So hopefully you can see that you can use this as kind of a measuring stick. And then that's what I do for myself. And this is I go much deeper on my health and private client health. I will be teaching more about that in the future, but start here, right? So start here, and then we can get even deeper if you want. And all these things you'll see that improve your overall biological age, right? Hopefully today's show was helpful. Let me know if there's any questions. Let me know what you thought right in the comments below this video. We would, of course, appreciate that. We love the engagement from the community. If you haven't liked or subscribed to the podcast or reviewed it, I would love for you to do that on your favorite player. And that's it. So feel free to share the show with anyone you believe it could serve, and I'll be back tomorrow. Take care, everybody. Did you know that the body really only becomes sick or imbalanced in only 2 ways? Over time, you become deficient in vital nutrients, and you also accumulate toxins internally and from the environment. As those nutrients diminish and you increase your total toxic load, your body then begins to show the first signs of dis-ease. It's actually quite predictable, and the good news is that if we know how you began to fill up that proverbial rain barrel, we also know how to empty it to begin the healing process. I was fortunate enough to learn this ancient healing process from my mentor after suffering from debilitating diseases for close to a decade. It was only when I began to implement these techniques did I finally overcome my illnesses and go on to live a life of energy and vitality that I now enjoy. I'd like to share with you now what I discovered after traveling all over the world and how to combine the best of ancient healing wisdom with state-of-the-art science. Allow me to teach you exactly how I've been able to help over 250,000 people to empty their rain barrel and begin to transform their body and lives into what they've always hoped they could be. To get your copy of the international bestseller, The Rain Barrel Effect, simply go to stephencabral.com/rainbarrel.